The video Emma Watson is Everything Wrong with Hollywood by the channel Moon presents itself as a culture war takedown. It tells the story of Emma Watson, the actress who played Hermione Granger, and argues that she embodies everything broken about the entertainment industry. The video critiques her privilege, her virtue signaling, and her carefully managed public persona. It contrasts her with J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, who has become a polarizing figure for her public stance on transgender issues. On the surface, this looks like a straightforward critique of celebrity hypocrisy, but from a Marxist-Leninist perspective, both the video and its subjects reveal something far deeper. They expose how the ruling class uses culture war as a weapon to divide the working class and protect the real structures of power. The video opens by declaring that Emma Watson is a byproduct of a failing culture war narrative. The creator says this culture war has ruined our entertainment, media, and politics, making us all poorer, unable to afford to live. This is a remarkable claim because it contains a partial truth wrapped in a complete misdiagnosis. Yes, working people are poorer and unable to afford to live. Yes, our media and politics have been hollowed out. But the cause is not the culture war. The culture war is a symptom, not the disease. The disease is capitalism. The culture war is a deliberate strategy used by the ruling class to channel working class anger away from class struggle and into performative battles over identity, language, and representation. By framing Emma Watson as the problem, the video does exactly what the ruling class wants. It turns our attention toward a multimillionaire actress and away from the billionaires who own the studios, the distribution networks, and the politicians. Emma Watson is, by any reasonable measure, a tremendously privileged person. The video is correct about this. She was born to wealthy Parisian lawyers. Her connections got her into elite drama schools. Her family's wealth gave her a safety net that most working class actors could never dream of. She became a child star through a combination of luck and connections that were already in place before she could walk. This is not a revelation. This is how the entertainment industry works under capitalism. The children of the wealthy and connected dominate the arts because access to training, networking, and the financial stability to pursue an unstable career is a class privilege. The working class is systematically excluded from cultural production unless they can produce content cheaply enough or entertainingly enough to be exploited. Emma Watson did not create this system. She benefited from it, as anyone in her position would. Criticizing her for being born wealthy is like criticizing a fish for being wet. The video's central argument is that the culture war has ended and that the woke era is over. It points to celebrities abandoning identity politics and corporations throwing their lot in with Donald Trump as evidence. This is not an analysis. This is a marketing strategy. The so-called end of woke is not a grassroots awakening. It is a calculated shift by capital. When it was profitable for corporations to signal progressive values, they did so loudly. When the political winds shifted, they abandoned those positions without a second thought. This is not a victory for reason or authenticity. It is a demonstration of how capital has no loyalty to any ideology except the ideology of accumulation. The same corporations that plastered Black Lives Matter signs in their windows in 2020 are now donating to Trump's inauguration fund. This is not a contradiction. It is the logical behavior of capital seeking to maximize profit by aligning with whatever political force is most powerful at any given moment. The contrast between Emma Watson and J.K. Rowling is the centerpiece of the video. Watson is presented as a fake, a Hollywood phony who speaks in empty platitudes about love and inclusion while privately trying to maintain her connections to power. Rowling is presented as authentic, someone who speaks her mind regardless of consequences. The video suggests that Watson represents the old Hollywood establishment, while Rowling has broken free from it. This framing is profoundly misleading because it obscures the fact that both women are multimillionaires who operate entirely within the framework of bourgeois celebrity culture. J.K. Rowling is not a working class hero. She is a billionaire author who has made common cause with some of the most reactionary forces in British and American politics. Her claim that she lived in poverty while writing Harry Potter is true, but it does not make her a champion of the poor today. The poverty of a struggling artist before they hit it big is not the same as the structural poverty of the working class. Rowling is now part of the owning class, and her politics, whatever one thinks of them, serve to divide the working class along cultural lines rather than unite it along class lines. The video mocks Emma Watson for her statement on a podcast where she said, "It is my deepest wish that I hope people who do not agree with my opinion will love me, and I hope I can keep loving people who I do not necessarily share the same opinion with." The creator calls this Hollywood drivel, and he is right that it is empty and meaningless. But this emptiness is worth examining more closely because it reveals something about how liberal feminism operates as a servant of capital. Watson's most famous public intervention was her HeForShe campaign at the United Nations in 2014, a speech that was widely celebrated as a breakthrough for gender equality. In that speech, Watson called on men to join the fight for women's rights, framing feminism as a cooperative project that did not threaten anyone's power. She said, "If you believe in equality, you might be one of those inadvertent feminists," and then she asked men to step up. The speech was carefully designed to be unthreatening to the existing power structure. It asked for inclusion within the system, not transformation of it. It did not mention capitalism. It did not mention class. It did not mention the billionaire families who fund the UN. It presented gender inequality as a problem of awareness and attitude rather than a structural feature of a system that requires inequality to function. This is the defining characteristic of liberal feminism. It demands a seat at the table without asking who built the table or why most people are not invited. This is what made Watson the perfect celebrity activist for the establishment. She could advocate for women's advancement within the existing class structure, which meant she was never a threat to the billionaires who own the media companies that amplify her message. The ruling class loves activists who ask for reform because reform, by definition, leaves the fundamental distribution of power intact. But this emptiness is not a personal failing of Emma Watson. It is the inevitable product of a system in which celebrities must be all things to all people to maintain their marketability. A celebrity who takes a clear political stand risks alienating a segment of their audience, and therefore a segment of their revenue. The result is a politics of carefully calibrated ambiguity that says nothing while seeming to say everything. This is not unique to Emma Watson. It is the default position of virtually every mainstream celebrity under capitalism. The demand that celebrities be politically engaged is itself a trap, because the kind of engagement that is permitted within the system is the kind that changes nothing. The video includes a long advertisement for Opus Clip, an AI video editing tool. This is not incidental. It reveals the material reality behind the culture war content. The creator of this video is running a business. The outrage, the drama, the takedowns, all of it is content designed to generate views, which generate ad revenue, which generate profit. The culture war is not simply a political phenomenon. It is an industry. There are thousands of channels on both the right and the left that produce a constant stream of outrage content, because outrage is the most reliable driver of engagement on social media. The algorithm rewards conflict, so conflict is what the algorithm gets. Emma Watson is not the product of this system. She is a raw material. She is mined for content, processed into outrage, and sold to audiences who are kept in a state of permanent anger because anger is profitable. The real question is not whether Emma Watson is genuine or fake. The real question is why we are so invested in the authenticity of celebrities when the entire system is designed to manufacture the appearance of authenticity for profit. From a Marxist-Leninist perspective, the concept of celebrity itself is a tool of class domination. Celebrities serve several functions for the ruling class. First, they provide a constant source of distraction from material conditions. While we debate whether Emma Watson is a hypocrite or whether J.K. Rowling is brave, the cost of housing is rising, wages are stagnating, and the billionaire class is extracting more wealth than at any point in human history. Second, celebrities model the lifestyle of the ruling class for the working class. They normalize extreme wealth and present it as aspirational rather than than obscene. Third, celebrity feuds create the illusion of political diversity within the elite. We are asked to choose sides between Watson and Rowling as if this choice had any meaning for our material conditions. Neither side represents the interests of the working class. Both are symptoms of the same disease. The Harry Potter franchise itself is instructive here. It is one of the most valuable media properties in the history of capitalism, generating billions of dollars across books, films, merchandise, theme parks, and video games. The story of an orphan boy who discovers he is a wizard and defeats a dark lord has been consumed by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. But what are the class politics of Harry Potter? The books are, at their core, a deeply conservative fantasy. Harry inherits a massive fortune from his parents, and this inheritance is central to his ability to succeed. He attends a private school that operates entirely outside the state system. The house elves are a literal servant class who are depicted as being happiest when serving their masters. The heroes are sorted into their social groups through an innate biological test, the sorting hat, that assigns them their place in the social hierarchy before they have any say in the matter. There is no collective action in Harry Potter. The ending is not the students organizing to demand democratic control of Hogwarts. It is the hero, born to privilege and possessing unique magical abilities that others lack, defeating the villain in personal combat. This is the fantasy of aristocracy, not democracy. It is the fantasy of a benevolent elite, not working class liberation. And yet the Harry Potter brand was successfully marketed as a progressive force in the world. Emma Watson was the human face of this marketing, the accessible, smiling representative of a franchise that made its creators billionaires while selling working class children a fantasy of inherited privilege and individual heroism. The video claims that the woke era has ended and that people are now aware of celebrity virtue signaling. This observation is superficially correct, but politically useless. Yes, the backlash against empty celebrity activism has grown. Yes, many people now see through the performative politics of Hollywood. But the conclusion the video draws from this is that celebrities should stay out of real-world problems entirely. The creator quotes advice given to celebrities, which is to stay out of real-world problems, and they will probably be fine. This is the logic of neoliberalism dressed up as a critique of liberalism. The demand that celebrities stop talking about politics is not a radical position. It is a conservative position that leaves the existing distribution of power entirely unchallenged. If the only problem with celebrity activism is that it is performative, then the solution is not less activism. It is more genuine class struggle that connects cultural production to material conditions. There is a deeper problem with the stay out of politics argument. It assumes that silence is a neutral position. It is not. When a celebrity says nothing, they are implicitly endorsing the status quo. The absence of activism is not the absence of politics. It is a political choice to accept the world as it is. The Harry Potter franchise, which made both Watson and Rowling wealthy, was never apolitical. It was a vehicle for a particular set of values, individual heroism, inherited privilege, the triumph of the exceptional over the collective, and these values are deeply political. The demand that celebrities stay out of politics is really a demand that they stop challenging power. And that demand is made not just by the right-wing commentators who populate YouTube, but by the entire apparatus of the culture industry, which knows that any genuine challenge to the existing order is bad for business. The video is correct that Emma Watson is a product of extreme privilege. It is correct that her activism is hollow. It is correct that the culture war has damaged our ability to talk about real problems. But it completely fails to identify the root cause of these phenomena. The root cause is not a conspiracy of liberal elites. The root cause is capitalism. The culture war is not a bug in the system. It is a feature. The ruling class has a material interest in keeping the working class divided along lines of race, gender, and culture, because a divided working class cannot organize effectively against its exploiters. The focus on Emma Watson and J.K. Rowling is a perfect example of this dynamic. We are encouraged to pour our energy into debating the sincerity of two multimillionaires while the billionaires who own the media, the government, and the economy operate entirely outside of our scrutiny. There is a long tradition on the left of analyzing celebrity culture through a class lens. Lenin wrote extensively about how bourgeois culture serves to pacify and distract the working class. The Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci developed the concept of cultural hegemony to explain how the ruling class maintains power not just through force, but through the control of ideas, values, and cultural norms. The Frankfurt School theorists, particularly Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer, analyzed what they called the culture industry, the mass production of cultural goods that standardize consciousness and eliminate critical thinking. When Adorno wrote that the culture industry fashions the good citizen as a mere extension of the social order, he could have been describing the Emma Watson phenomenon perfectly. Watson is not just a celebrity. She is a product of the culture industry, manufactured to embody a particular set of values that are safe, marketable, and ultimately supportive of the status quo. The video's attack on Watson's privilege is ironic because the video itself is a product of the same system. The creator makes money from the outrage he generates. He sells the illusion of authenticity while running a media operation funded by AI tool sponsorships and ad revenue. This is not a criticism of the creator personally. It is a description of how everyone under capitalism is constrained by the logic of the market. The difference is that the video presents itself as a radical critique when it is actually a reactionary one. It channels legitimate anger at inequality into a culture war narrative that ultimately reinforces the very structures it claims to oppose. What would a genuinely radical analysis of Emma Watson look like? It would start by acknowledging that Emma Watson is not the problem. She is a symptom. The problem is a system that produces multi-millionaire child stars, that incentivizes hollow activism, that turns every human relationship into a marketable commodity, and that keeps the working class fighting over the sincerity of celebrities while the ruling class extracts trillions in wealth. A class analysis would show that both Emma Watson and J.K. Rowling are products of the same system, that their feud is a manufactured distraction, and that the real conflict in our society is not between celebrities, but between the class that owns the means of production and the class that works for them. Consider the economics of Watson's most prominent post-Potter role, Belle in Disney's 2017 live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast. This film grossed over $1.2 billion worldwide, making it one of the highest-grossing films of the year. It was a safe investment for Disney, a studio that has increasingly abandoned original storytelling in favor of mining its existing intellectual property for guaranteed returns. The live-action remake trend, including Aladdin, The Lion King, The Little Mermaid, and dozens more, is a strategy of monopoly capital. Instead of taking risks on new stories, new voices, or new creative visions, the studio extracts maximum value from assets it already controls. This is not a creative decision. It is a financial one. And Emma Watson was cast as Belle not because she was the best actress for the role, but because she was the safest brand. She carried the Harry Potter Association, the UN ambassador credibility, and a carefully managed public image that would not scare off any demographic. She was a product placement in a movie that was itself a product placement. The entire enterprise, from the casting to the marketing to the theatrical release, was designed to maximize return on investment with minimum creative risk. This is how the culture industry works under monopoly capitalism. The video mentions that Emma Watson's father bought vineyards in France and used his connections to get her into elite schools. This is presented as a scandal. From a class perspective, it is simply how the capitalist class reproduces itself. Wealthy families use their wealth to secure advantages for their children. This is not a moral failing of the Watson family. It is a structural feature of class society. The scandal is not that Emma Watson's parents use their money to help her. The scandal is that the system is set up so that only people with money can succeed. The solution is not to shame Emma Watson for being born wealthy. The solution is to abolish the class system that makes wealth the determining factor in life outcomes. The video makes much of the fact that Watson attended elite private schools and that her parents were wealthy lawyers. It uses this to argue that she is fundamentally inauthentic and undeserving of her fame. This critique contains a dangerous implication. It suggests that only working class people can be authentic, and that anyone born into privilege is forever corrupted by it. This framing divides potential allies and obscures the real enemy. The real enemy is not the child of privilege. The real enemy is the system of privilege itself. A working class analysis does not demand that working class people be pure and authentic. It demands that we recognize class as a structural position position, not a moral identity. What matters is not where Emma Watson was born, but that she, like virtually every mainstream celebrity, functions as a tool of class domination regardless of her personal intentions. She may genuinely believe in gender equality, racial justice, and environmental protection. The tragedy is that her belief changes nothing because it is expressed within a system that has already commodified every form of dissent. The video shows a clip of Watson saying that she hopes people who disagree with her will still love her. This is pathetic, yes, but it is the pathetic response of someone who has been placed in an impossible position. The system demands that celebrities have opinions, but only opinions that do not threaten the system. The result is the hollow, meaningless, desperately inoffensive language that the video rightly mocks. The video ends on a note that is worth examining closely. It says that Emma Watson has done a lot of good for the world, but that she could have done so much more if she had focused on real charity work instead of falling into the Hollywood propaganda machine. This sounds reasonable until you ask what real charity work means under capitalism. The vast majority of celebrity philanthropy is a tax avoidance strategy and a public relations exercise. It does not challenge the structures that create poverty. It humanizes the wealthy while leaving the system that produces their wealth untouched. The call for more authentic charity and less propaganda is a liberal fantasy. The propaganda is not an unfortunate addition to capitalism. It is a necessary component of it. The system cannot function without ideological apparatuses that convince people that the existing order is natural, fair, and inevitable. The most important thing to understand about the Emma Watson phenomenon is not whether she is authentic or fake, privileged or deserving, left or right. The most important thing is that the entire debate operates within a framework that serves the ruling class. Whether you love Emma Watson or hate her, whether you celebrate J.K. Rowling or condemn her, you are participating in a cultural circus that leaves the material distribution of power and wealth entirely untouched. The culture war, whether pursued by the right or the left, is a war within the bourgeois camp. Both sides are armed with arguments. Neither side is armed with a program for working class liberation. What would it mean to actually move beyond the culture war? It would mean recognizing that the real division in society is not between wokes and anti-wokes, not between liberals and conservatives, not between Emma Watson and J.K. Rowling. The real division is between the owning class and the working class. The billionaires who own Hollywood studios, the same billionaires who fund right-wing think tanks and left-wing nonprofits, the same billionaires who profit from both the culture war and its supposed end. They are the common enemy. They want us to fight each other over celebrities. They want us to pour our energy into debates about authenticity and sincerity while they strip away our healthcare, our housing, our education, and our futures. The video Emma Watson is everything wrong with Hollywood is not entirely wrong. It identifies real problems in celebrity culture, but it is profoundly wrong about the cause and the solution. The cause is not a culture war conspiracy. The cause is capitalism. The solution is not for celebrities to shut up or for audiences to tune out. The solution is class struggle. The working class must organize, not to police the authenticity of celebrities, but to seize control of the means of production and build a society in which wealth is shared. Culture is created by and for the people, and no child has to depend on wealthy parents and elite connections to pursue their dreams. That is the real alternative to the culture war, not silence. Liberation. What would this liberation look like in practice? The working class already creates cultural production outside the Hollywood system. From independent film collectives to worker-owned media cooperatives to community radio stations to the vibrant ecosystems of activist art, there are thousands of examples of cultural production that operate on principles of solidarity rather than profit. The challenge is that these projects are systematically starved of resources while Hollywood receives billions in subsidies, tax breaks, and institutional support. A society that prioritized working-class cultural production would redirect those resources into community-controlled media. It would fund film schools that recruit from working-class neighborhoods rather than elite private academies. It would create distribution networks for working-class art that do not require the approval of corporate gatekeepers. It would ensure that the people who make the culture also control the means of producing and distributing it. The most immediate arena of struggle, however, is not the creation of alternative institutions. It is the fight to transform the consciousness of the working class. The culture war is not simply a distraction from class struggle. It is a weapon used against class consciousness. Every hot take about Emma Watson and J.K. Rowling, every outrage cycle about celebrity hypocrisy, every debate about who is more authentic, all of it functions to replace class analysis with cultural analysis. The ruling class would much rather have us arguing about Emma Watson than organizing a strike. They would rather have us watching takedown videos than building solidarity across racial, gender, and cultural lines. The culture war is not a mistake that we can correct through better information. It is a deliberate strategy of divide and rule, and it can only be defeated by a working class movement that recognizes the common enemy behind both the wokes and the anti-wokes, both Emma Watson and the YouTubers who make money by attacking her. This is why a Marxist-Leninist analysis is essential. Only a class analysis can cut through the endless noise of the culture war and identify the real structures of power. Emma Watson is not everything wrong with Hollywood. She is a symptom of everything wrong with capitalism. The video that attacks her is also a symptom. Both are products of a system that generates endless content while leaving the fundamental distribution of wealth and power untouched. The only way out is class struggle, not better celebrities, not more authentic activism, not a return to some imaginary past where celebrities stayed out of politics. Organizing, striking, building working class power, and ultimately replacing capitalism with a system based on collective ownership and democratic control of the economy. That is the only analysis that matters. That is the only solution that can work.